whether or not you're into the lean startup methodology or not, most entrepreneurs and definitely founders of new startups should be looking at how you can be lean and mean in terms of costs. And there are so many options out there for free software that can really help you maximize your efforts with very little input if possible. I like to look at a few big categories in terms of how you're operating your business. So those usually fall under communication, project management, automation, and outsourcing if possible. But it's a little bit difficult to find a free outsourcing option. So we'll come back to that one. So for communication, I think that Slack is the best tool there is for communicating internally with a team. It's very important to understand that there are different modes of communication when you're talking to an internal team versus external. External communication, which really is suited for email, is much more transactional if you think about it. So you're typically asking for something, or you're providing information about something, whether it's a spouse or a friend or a coworker. But the coworker thing becomes a little muddy because internal conversations tend to be a lot more, not long-winded, but there's brainstorming, there's back and forth, there's ideas and ideas being shot down and then consensus brought together. So that's why we see the 20 forwards and BCCs that tend to happen when people use email for an internal kind of conversation. So that's why Slack is great, and it's also free. Now, the nice thing about Slack too is that you can build communities based on Slack. And I actually have the less.do Labs, which is an 800-person membership community on a free Slack team. So you don't need to pay for Slack unless you want to start having people be relegated to individual channels, for example, or if you want a lot more storage space. And there's all sorts of ways around that. So the free Slack option is a great one for not only communicating with your team, but also for actually creating a community of your users, which regardless of what the business is, it's probably a really good way to do that. So that's the first one. Inbox by Google, I think, is the best email platform there is. And it's, email's free for everybody, right, if you're using Gmail. But the reason that I like Inbox is that it adds a lot of features into it that it makes it a lot easier to do certain levels of business. The snooze functionality that's built into Inbox by Google is effectively a really cheap and dirty CRM. So I would highly recommend Inbox by Google. For project management now, we're talking about Trello. And Trello, again, is free. To pay for Trello, you really, 95% of the time, 95% of the cases, I never see people need to pay for Trello because it gives you certain power-ups and things. But again, you really don't need it. And Trello is so flexible that you can use it for any kind of project management with your team. You can invite clients into it or vendors or outsiders. I even use it for family planning stuff. I think Trello is just a wonderful, wonderful tool for project management and organization in general. And again, totally free. The next one is an automation platform, which is IFTTT. That stands for if this, then that. And basically creates triggers between different, whether it's web software or physical Internet of Things devices. So one of the best things that you can do as a budding startup is obviously being able to get yourself more exposure and more press and more opportunities for people to see what you have to offer. So IFTTT can actually automate a lot of your social media strategy. You can say that if you post something on Twitter, then it automatically reposts it on Facebook. If you change your profile picture on Facebook, then it will update it on Twitter. You can do LinkedIn stuff, Pinterest, but you can also automate business functions. You can say if somebody signs up for your newsletter, then you want to add them to maybe you want to add them to a Slack channel so that they can be part of the community. If somebody actually buys from you using PayPal, for example, then you want to add them automatically to your newsletter, whether it's on MailChimp or ConvertKit or something else. So IFTTT is the kind of tool that can basically make a one-person startup seem like they have 10 people at their fingertips. So that's 4, and I've got one more for you. In terms of outsourcing, now this is cheap and free options. So the cheapest option for relatively effective outsourcing is going to be Fancy Hands. So Fancy Hands is a service been around for a long time. They have thousands of assistants, and it's what's known as an on-demand virtual assistant service. They can do short tasks for you, things up to 20 minutes. And I think that the tasks end up being $4 or $5 each. Now, this is the kind of thing where you really can maximize your ability to get things done by offloading it to other people, even if it's something as simple as researching opportunities or creating follow-ups for clients or helping with customer journey or customer retention or graphic design, even in some cases. So there's going to be those things. You're not committed to anything that you're going to be into a big contract for. And any founder has to be looking at how they can make themselves as replaceable as possible, because otherwise you will be a bottleneck and liability for your company. So if you need cheap outsourcing and effective outsourcing, then you can use a service like Fancy Hands in that type of situation. So there's your top 5 pieces of software or services to use as a cost-conscious entrepreneur. Hey, thanks so much for watching my video. If you liked it and you want to see more, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody you think would benefit from a little more optimization, automation, and outsourcing in their life. Thanks a lot.